Part 108. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1080. Latest website. Duo became happy. Zhang Xiaoyan, who was standing aside, slapped him on the shoulder angrily and arranged Duo in her original room. Lu Feng turned around and looked at Zhang Xiaoyan and said, "It's getting late, go to bed bar. What are you sleeping for?" "I'll sleep downstairs." After Zhang Xiaoyan finished speaking, she went downstairs. "Stop making a fuss. I have something to do tomorrow and I have to get up early. I'm afraid I won't be able to get up. Call me when you sleep next to me." Lu Feng quickly followed. "Don't worry, Duo will wake you up tomorrow morning. You can also wash upstairs. Let's go, let's go." Lu Feng grabbed Zhang Xiaoyan's shoulders and said sincerely, "It's impossible for us to not have this little trust, right? I swear." Zhang Xiaoyan looked at him without saying anything, turned around and went upstairs again. After washing up, the two of them went back to the room and lay down. It was already midnight. Zhang Xiaoyan turned over and looked at the people around her who were still asleep. She said, "Don't you have something to do tomorrow? Go to sleep quickly." "I can't sleep a bit. I just feel that living is tiring. Even having money is tiring, but not having money is even more tiring." Lu Feng sighed. "You will not be tired if you are open-minded. Besides, it was your choice to get to where you are today." Zhang Xiaoyan lay down and looked at the ceiling blankly, recalling the days in the rental house, and said, "You said, if you could live your life again, would you still choose to be so tired?" Lu Feng didn't know how to answer. He was silent for a long time and replied, "Actually, we don't have a choice. We are walking on the path that everyone is taking in this era. We just pushed and deceived to get to the front. You didn't let me after opening a factory, or many years later, when faced with life constraints, you will regret your original decision. In life, there are always pitfalls waiting for you ahead. When you walk on this road, you will always think about the scenery on that road. Sometimes I was thinking about what if, and then I figured it out. What if I chose another path today? If I really chose another path, we were lying in bed one day thinking about whether it would have been better if we had set up a factory in the first place. There will be no worries today. The past is history and the future is too far away. Living in the present is the most real thing. Then stop talking and go to sleep." Zhang Xiaoyan pulled Xiaoyang on her body and said. United States, 10 a.m., Goldman Sachs headquarters on Wall Street. The semiconductor industry in the entire Silicon Valley knows that GFeng has made a breakthrough in the core field. They cannot believe that someone can make a breakthrough in such an important field in a short period of time. After some investigation, they found out, most of the achievements were made by overseas engineers, who were hired by GFeng at a high price. The news had spread among the top management of the financial system. An investigation document was placed on Lambert's desk. A few minutes later, Lambert walked in with an ugly expression after the meeting and saw the folder on the desk open. After taking a look, he hit the table directly in the next second, and a curse word burst out from his mouth. The assistant rushed in immediately when he heard the noise, thinking something had happened. "I was telling those people last year that this Lushan summit was going to create a big thing, but no one cared or listened. How about now? Now there are so many companies and engineers standing behind them, and they have made breakthroughs in technology patents. They just started to worry, a bunch of trash," Lambert roared. The assistant turned around and glanced, confirming that the door was closed tightly, and said, "The latest news is that this Lu Feng has caused a big disaster in Europe. Many European countries are investigating him for fraud. It is said that the amount is as high as hundreds of billions of dollars." "Can ye? Who is Lu Feng?" "He is just an unlucky guy who was pushed out. How many people have provided help to him during the 6 months he has been in Europe? He has been given the green light to do things that he cannot do. He doesn't wear the hat of Kanye. You have to wear it. Since he dares to do it, he has already thought of a way out. Now, regardless of the situation in Europe, he will just talk about GFN, Lambert said solemnly. Actually, everything is fine. All of his R/U0026D results are from overseas high-paid personnel, and he has not cultivated his own talent system. This is a one-off. As long as the semiconductor industry breaks through again, in a few years, the technology they have in hand will be I won't be able to catch up, the assistant continued to comfort him. Is this what I'm worried about? What do those companies in Silicon Valley have to do with me? What I'm worried about is the human heart, a hard nut. The hard nut we haven't chewed off is still alive and well. This is for other international companies. An example, this example is very bad, Lambert said solemnly. The assistant stopped talking. At his level, he didn't think about it at this level. Lambert doesn't care about Silicon Valley at all. He is in finance. The most important thing in this industry is to buy high-quality assets at low prices. In the past, they had the final say on whether companies in other countries in the world were high-quality assets. Even if you don't sell them, they still have them. The method allows the other party to make the company unable to see the future in a short period of time. But this trick didn't work for Lu Feng. He got through it. This is well known to the Wall Street gang. They only have these three axes, which can kill everyone in the world. If you survive, what will happen to the others? Look. I'm going to have a meeting in the afternoon. I have to talk to them about this matter. You should contact some companies in Silicon Valley this afternoon and speak out when it's time to speak up. Let them first accuse GFN of stealing technology, Lambert ordered. Okay, I know. Although Lambert has been dealing with finance for many years, he has not forgotten the job of throwing dirty water. At 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning in China and in the evening in the United States, various evening newspapers and news began to be broadcast. Motorola's vice president said in an interview that GFN Electronics Group's breakthrough in the semiconductor field was plagiarism, and asked GFN to disclose all key technologies, otherwise it would be infringement. Their patent rights. Vice presidents of other companies in Silicon Valley have also spoken out, accusing GFN of being at the forefront of the industry in such a short period of time and having many problems. There is only one possibility, and that is that GFN has plagiarized technology patents from other companies. A small company that Americans had long forgotten has once again come into the media's sight. However, it has not been seen for more than a year, and it is already so powerful. In China, Lu Feng was woken up at 7 o'clock in the morning. He washed his face roughly and sat on the sofa, yawning. Duo, whose hair was like a chicken coop, sat next to him and complained, I don't go to school. I wake up like this. What are you doing early? Aren't you going to play on the computer? Your dad will be leaving soon. Zhang Xiaoyan brought breakfast out of the kitchen. I have to say that a family still needs a woman. In the past, Lu Feng never had breakfast. Although these soy milk and fried dough sticks were bought freshly from outside, someone still had to go out and buy them. She doesn't need to come with me. I'll go directly to the train station in a moment. You can send her to the company, Lu Feng said while eating. I have a morning meeting in the morning. I need to change the packaging of the product and have a meeting with the material supplier, Zhang Xiaoyan said while eating. Okay, I'll find someone to send her off. Lu Feng had no choice but to compromise. At 8 o'clock, Lu Feng drove out and went straight to the train station. Before leaving, he called Wei Yandan and asked her to find someone to pick up Duo. When we arrived at the train station, everyone had already arrived, and an area was divided into an area. Wei Yandan, Du Guoying, and everyone from Liukan were all there, as were Mayor Zhou, Deputy Mayor Liu, and Deputy District Mayor Li. The train that was supposed to arrive at the station at 8:30 has not arrived yet, but it is normal. It is common for green trains to be delayed now. Mayor Zhou saw Lu Feng coming and took the initiative to step forward and said, "Mr. Lu, right? I've heard your name a lot. You're already an outstanding private entrepreneur at such a young age." "Hello, hello." Lu Feng shook hands with him and said politely, "You are so complimentary. We still have many shortcomings." "You're welcome. This is the first time we have met. If you need anything in the future, you can call me directly. We are here to serve enterprises. We can do anything at any time." Mayor Zhou was very reserved. Lu Feng knew that he would be falsely polite to him, but he didn't expect it to be so false. The falseness made him have to think about the meaning. He was stunned for a moment and said hurriedly, "If there is anything, ask Mr. Wei to contact you. Now I have withdrawn from the management, and Mr. Wei is in charge of the daily management of the company." Vice Mayor Lu introduced, "Wei Yandan, whom you met last time, is Jia Feng's second in command." "Don't dare," Wei Yandan said hurriedly. Mayor Zhou shook hands with everyone, and the reporters and media nearby were already taking pictures. He looked at Lu Feng and said, "As for me, I just came here not long ago, so I may not have a good understanding of some issues. However, in the past 6 months, I have learned a lot about Jia Feng still attaches great importance to it and has been here several times. I believe there is a certain reason why Jia Feng has achieved such results this time." Lu Feng thought about it. Even if he didn't like this kind of thing, he still had to face it. "You have done all the work, so let others take the credit. That's for sure. You played a key role. Without your support and encouragement, we wouldn't dare to go on." Lu Feng looked at Mayor Zhou and said straightforwardly, "We just support each other. What about me? There are a lot of things to do, and the more you do, the more mistakes will inevitably occur. This is human nature. I understand. If anything goes wrong, it's me." Mayor Zhou smiled very kindly and patted Lu Feng on the shoulder. He was afraid that Lu Feng would cause any big trouble. After all, this man it can indeed cause trouble, so he lowered his voice slightly and said, "I'm just curious about how big the problem is." "It's just an overseas matter. I told you the other day that there is a financial dispute," Lu Feng said in a low voice. "It's a small thing," Mayor Zhou agreed easily. Before the train pulled into the station, Lu Feng reached a happy cooperative relationship with Mayor Zhou in less than 20 minutes. It was not until 9 o'clock in the morning that the train slowly pulled into the station. A team of more than a dozen people walked out under the guidance of the passenger sister. In an instant, everyone walked towards the front. The cameraman also turned on the camera and started shooting. The scene was conducted in an orderly manner. They shook hands and introduced each other politely. "This is the founder of Jia Feng Group, Mr. Lu Feng." "Hello." Lu Feng stretched out his hand and shook hands with the man in front of him. "Hello, my name is He Zheng, and I am the leader of this inspection team." He Zheng stared at Lu Feng. Seeing that he was so young, he became suspicious of this matter, and there was a bit of contempt in his eyes. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1081. Latest website. "Welcome, thank you for your hard work along the way," Lu Feng said politely. "We warmly welcome the arrival of the inspection team, which also reflects the country's support for semiconductors. I believe that these 2 days of inspection will allow the inspection team to see a different Shenzhen." Mayor Zhou said to the camera. There are many outside opinions about Jia Feng Group's breakthrough in semiconductor technology this time. Some experts even stood up and said that such high-precision technology cannot be achieved by one company in a short period of time. "What do you think about this?" the reporter asked, holding the microphone. Jia Feng Group is a leading enterprise and a multinational enterprise. Under the leadership of the city, it has strong competitiveness in semiconductor research and development. It has reached a joint research and development relationship with Nokia. At the same time, Shenzhen is constantly learning from Silicon Valley. Building a city dominated by science and technology is our positioning. Since I came here, I have visited GFN many times. The achievements we have today are not by chance, but under the leadership of the country and the support of the city. Today's results have just been achieved, Mayor Joe said to the camera. After the reporter listened, he interviewed He Zheng again about the current progress of domestic semiconductors and what GFN's R/U0026D breakthrough means. Lu Feng stood nearby and listened. Although Mayor Joe spoke beautifully, no matter how he listened, he felt as if GFN would not be what he is today without him. A brief group photo was taken at the scene. After the interview, the group got in the car and went to the municipal government for a meeting. Then they visited the GFN headquarters in the morning and the R/U0026D company in the afternoon. In the car, Wei Yandan was sitting in the passenger seat. She turned back to look at Lu Feng in the back seat and asked, "Mr. Lu, I don't need to speak for a while, right? If you don't have any arrangements, don't use it." Lu Feng thought for a while and said, "Don't you feel it? This He Zheng doesn't make people feel very comfortable. Do you have this feeling?" Wei Yandan thought for a moment and said, "I didn't pay attention." "I do. When I shook hands with you just now, that look made me very uncomfortable," Liukan said next to him. "Forget it, let's not think about this for now. At the meeting later, Mr. Lu, you will briefly introduce our technological breakthroughs in wafers, and then visit the headquarters. When we go to the R/U0026D company in the afternoon, we will talk about other things, and then the R/U0026D company just get some wafer rods and other display materials and let them take a look." "Good." The car drove directly into the municipal government. Everyone got out of the car and warmly received He Zheng. The group of people walked to the conference room. Along the way, the mayor had a brief contact with He Zheng. He felt that this person did not know much about the semiconductor industry. He just asked who was the main driver of GFN's success today, and whether it is possible for another person to emerge in the future to push the semiconductor industry to a stronger stage. Lu Feng got out of the car and walked inside. He felt a little unhappy when he saw Deputy District Mayor Li moving forward. Deputy Mayor Lu stood there and waited. He saw Lu Feng and others walking over before following him. "Look, he's also a deputy. Deputy District Chief Li is very good at being a good person. If you don't show off at this time, you will miss a good opportunity," Lu Feng said with a smile. "Can it be the same? He is from the district, and I am from the city. They work in the district, but I am here every day." Vice Mayor Lu whispered to Lu Feng, "Let me tell you. This team leader, he doesn't seem very reliable, so please don't be so outspoken in your words. We just want to introduce the situation and don't care about the rest," Lu Feng replied. After entering the conference room, everyone exchanged greetings and took their seats. Mayor Joe took the main seat and made an opening speech. He briefly introduced some of the development of Shenzhen's semiconductor industry, as well as its industrial planning for the next few years, and made some suggestions for regional support. What jobs were done? The whole introduction lasted for about half an hour. It talked about the positioning and development of Shenzhen from a global perspective. With a burst of applause from the scene, Vice Mayor Lu said to Lu Feng, "Mr. Lu, let me introduce to you GFN Group." Everyone's eyes were focused on Lu Feng, who said, "Due to time, I won't say too much. Since the inspection team is here to confirm whether GFN has achieved a technological breakthrough, let the research and development companies. Mr. Lu will give you a brief introduction." Liukan took the words, briefly introduced himself to everyone, and then said, "Let me briefly talk about our technological breakthroughs in wafers. At present, we have the ability to reach world-class levels in wafers. The first is the processing of wafer rods. Use a quartz crucible to increase the temperature to 1450 degrees, melt the high-purity polycrystalline silicon, then insert seed crystals to slowly increase the temperature, and crystallize according to the set ratio. Liukin explained the growth of crystal ingots, the subsequent polishing and strengthening of various chemicals, and crystal slicing. For everyone present, the content was extremely boring. However, several members of the inspection team kept nodding their heads and taking notes from time to time. He Zheng even yawned directly. When Liukin talked about the process of grinding wafers, the other party couldn't listen anymore and interrupted. The specific process flow does not need to be so detailed. It still depends on whether it can be developed, like as Mayor Zhou just said, Jiafeng is a very good seed. When Lu Feng heard this, he looked at Vice Mayor Lu. Didn't he say that this inspection team was here to inspect technology? The leaders would come later. Why did they start talking about planning and development? The atmosphere at the scene became lively. They talked about the development of Shenzhen in the past few years. It was already 10:30 in the morning. Vice Mayor Lu said from the side, "Let's go to the Jiafeng headquarters to take a look. The development speed of this company it's very fast, especially with the support of the city, it can be said to be a leap forward." Yes, the city's leadership is good, and the district's implementation is good. Deputy District Chief Li continued with a smile. Mayor Zhou glanced at Deputy District Chief Li and said nothing. Everyone stood up and walked out. Lu Feng also followed. Before they could walk out of the door, He Zheng waved to Lu Feng and motioned for him to come over. Lu Feng walked over and asked, "What's wrong with team leader He?" "Xiao Lu, your company has made such great achievements, who do you think this is mainly due to?" He Zheng looked at Lu Feng and asked. Vice Mayor Lu hurriedly said from the side, "It is the result of everyone's joint efforts. Of course, promotion from the city is the main thing. We have a series of encouragements, and Mayor Zhou also attaches great importance to it. I think it is mainly due to the hard work of the R/U0026D personnel. For these results, they have been testing in the laboratory day and night, and found it through repeated failures," Lu Feng replied. "This is not a small matter, it is definitely a big deal. It will be recorded in history. It can be said that he is the pioneer of domestic semiconductors. One is the credit for catching up with the international market, and the other is the follow-up development. If it is done well, it will really be the future is limitless," He Zheng warned again. Everyone present was a smart person, and when they heard what was said, they had already talked about it. No one understood that team leader He wanted to take some credit here. Vice Mayor Lu said to Zinni from the side, "Team leader He is right, so why should we continue to work hard? Let's go first." He Zheng saw that Lu Feng didn't answer and walked towards the car. Arriving at the group headquarters, he spent more than an hour in the corporate culture promotion office. Lu Feng introduced the group's current business and subordinate brands. "We went to the hotel after 11 o'clock, and the reception standards were not too low. A table of food, cigarettes, and wine cost more than 2,000 yuan. During the dinner, it was obvious that He Zheng was a veteran. He kept talking to Mayor Zhou and complimented him. He has been here for a few months and Jiafeng has achieved such results. He will definitely report back when he returns." Mayor Zhou was beaming with joy as he drank one cup after another. On the contrary, the deputy team leader He Zheng was sitting next to Liukin and kept asking some technical questions: how long it would take for the chip industry to be put into production, what kind of technical problems there are currently, and what difficulties are there in implementation. There were obviously two factions at the dinner table. Liukin chatted animatedly with several technicians at the table, using all technical terms that laymen could not understand. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, everyone took a brief lunch break before heading to the headquarters of the R/U0026D company smelling of alcohol. Wei Yandan and Du Guoying had already gone back, leaving only Lu Feng and Liukin with them. "I met with several technical directors on site and introduced the current scale of the world's top semiconductors, the advantages and disadvantages of Jiafeng, and a video demonstration of wafer body, photoresist, and etching technology. Lu Feng could tell that team leader he was not thinking about technology at all. He just wanted to gain something. More than 3 hours in the afternoon passed very quickly. The reporter took a lot of photos, and it was dinner time again. All that was left to do tomorrow was a tour of the factory and the R/U0026D center. Lu Feng didn't want to follow them for a stroll, especially when he saw the face of Deputy District Chief Li, who looked like he was the same as He Zheng. Dinner was scheduled at a 3-star hotel. Before leaving, Lu Feng asked Wei Yandan to ask someone to take Duo back and drove towards the hotel. It was the peak dining period at the moment, and the Santai area was bustling with people. From time to time, people could hear people drinking and shouting. Mayor Zhou and the others hadn't arrived yet, so Lu Feng found a seat below and Liukan sat beside him, slapping his legs. Complained, "My legs hurt when I walk. The key is that team leader, he doesn't listen. What I say goes in the left ear and out the right ear. No matter what, just pretend to be stupid and dumbfounded when you should," Lu Feng replied. Lu Feng was sitting at a table where others had finished eating. Behind him were 3 women eating. They looked quite pretty. 5 or 6 people not far away were making loud noises. From time to time, laughter could be heard. It made everyone turn around frequently. Lu Feng turned around and saw 5 or 6 middle-aged men with big shoulders and round waists. They were wearing short-sleeved shorts and holding cigarettes in their mouths. Each of them looked like he weighed 200 pounds. They had tattoos on their arms, and they were laughing and laughing as if no one was watching. One of them walked towards the side, stood on the table of 3 women and smoked a cigarette. His eyes looked at one of them, as if he had discovered a new world, with a look of surprise on his face. Latest website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1082. Latest website. The place was buzzing with people, and Lu Feng kept staring at the man. After the man returned to his seat, he said a few words to the people around him and walked over again with a look of joy on his face. "Beauty, go out with me for a while. I'll show you something nice to do," the man asked with a playful smile. "No time," the woman raised her head and said angrily. "Don't be idle. You look so good. Damn, you have such a great figure." The man started to move as he spoke. The woman pushed his hand away and yelled, "Please leave." The man's face instantly became angry after being gathered together. Just as he was about to take action, he felt a gaze staring at him. He raised his head and met Lu Feng's eyes. He said unhappily, "Where are you looking at Nima Bai?" Lu Feng was scolded and became angry. He said in a deep voice, "You have eyes on me. It's not against the law to look at people. People ignore you and are shameless. You are shameless. How can you get so embarrassed to scold me? What the hell are you going to say again? Try talking back again." The man became angry and pointed his finger at Lu Feng to make a move. Liukan couldn't stand it any longer and said, "Brother, that's almost enough. Why don't you drink some wine and go home to sleep?" You." The man didn't hesitate at all. He picked up the beer bottle on the table and threw it at Liukan. The bottle whizzed past Lu Feng and Liukan and hit the chair in front of him. Broken. Lu Feng and Liukan were frightened by the way the other party took action at the slightest disagreement. They stood up in a hurry, but the other party had already rushed forward. At this moment, there was no other way but to take action personally. The explosion of beer bottles instantly overwhelmed all the noise at the scene. In an instant, everyone looked over and saw the man rushing towards Lu Feng, raised his fist and punched Lu Feng. The other party drank a little too much and was unsteady. Lu Feng hurriedly stepped back and knocked the table behind him to the ground. The dishes were shattered on the ground. The other party failed to hit the target and staggered and almost fell to the ground. The others saw the situation. No, stand up quickly and step back. Hum him to death, and I'll pay for your life, the man yelled, then picked up another beer bottle and rushed over. Liukin saw something was wrong and hurriedly said to Lu Feng, "Mr. Lu, run first." Just as Lu Feng was about to turn around and run, a man suddenly rushed in from outside the door. He flew up and kicked Lu Feng directly on the back. Lu Feng staggered forward after being kicked. Immediately afterwards, 5 or 6 people at the table next to him also stood up one after another, and a scuffle broke out. Lu Feng was kicked several times. As he just got up from his place, a man next to him held a stool and threw it at the place where he fell. Liukin was chased and beaten by 2 or 3 people. The scene was in a mess. There were too many opponents, and it was difficult for his fists to defeat his 4 feet. Lu Feng regained his footing and ran out. Wine bottles whizzed by behind him, and everyone chased him out. Just as he ran out of the hotel door, he bumped into someone and almost fell to the ground. Lu Feng calmed down and saw that he ran directly into Mayor Zhou's arms. "Mr. Lu, what's going on?" As soon as Mayor Zhou finished speaking, a beer bottle flew over and hit his head. Behind him, Deputy Mayor Lu, dozens of people were stunned by the situation. They were stunned for a few seconds. Everyone rushed in quickly to block the front. 7 or 8 people inside were holding chairs in their hands and smashing them like wolves and tigers. Deputy Lu, the district chief, had several stools smashed into his face and met Hong directly. How could these leaders fight? In less than half a minute, they were kicked out of the 9 o'clock door. The other party rushed out and saw dozens of people here, but they did not dare to make a move rashly, for fear that these people would swarm up and the other party would not be able to withstand it. The man who first started the conflict with Lu Feng pointed at Lu Feng with a beer bottle in his hand and yelled, "Can't you see it? I'm so stupid, I dug out your eyeballs. Do you believe it?" Lu Feng was kicked several times, and the most seriously injured were several leaders. Seeing this, Lu Feng said, come on, try digging one out. If you have the guts to dig out all these people, I'll give you credit. You're cool, you're rich, right? Are you rich and awesome? Keep it up, you idiot," the man said and was about to rush forward. The person next to him grabbed him. There were too many people here, so it was not suitable for him to do anything. After grabbing the man, he said harshly, "Do you know what Mr. Ho does? I tell you, I work in the dirt. You all humming deserve to die." Mayor Zhou covered his head with his hands, and others gathered around to ask about his injuries. Deputy District Chief Li covered his head with no one paying attention. Someone on the scene had already called the police. "Come on, get one and try it. Don't humming say, what do you mean if you mess with me? You mess with these people," Lu Feng said, throwing fire at Mayor Zhou and others. He Zheng and a group of people were watching from the side. Mayor Zhou was about to eat someone at the moment. Several people across from him also felt that something was wrong. The group of people in front of them were all in white shirts and suit pants. They did not look like ordinary people. Already started to retreat. "Call Director Chen and give him 5 minutes to rush to the scene." Mayor Zhou covered his head with his hands, looked at He Zheng and forced a smile. "I'm sorry, I'm just kidding, this must be the case. Severe punishment." The leading men were cursing and trying to run away. How could there be so many people at the scene? They were surrounded. In less than 10 minutes, 7 or 8 police cars roared in. The door opened and a man in his 40s got out of the car and ran over. Everyone was shocked when he learned the situation at the scene, and was immediately arrested by several people. "Let's take you to the hospital," Director Chen said hurriedly. Mayor Zhou's head stopped bleeding. He wiped it with a tissue. Not wanting to delay the evening meal, he said, "No need. This type of incident must be severely punished to ensure the sense of security of the people. If this matter cannot be handled, Okay, you submit your resignation to the city. I tell you, the people support you, not to let you do nothing. Yes, yes, we will definitely punish you severely. Director Chen lowered his head and said. Not only this matter, we also need to investigate the past events. They are so arrogant, which is not something ordinary people can do, Lu Feng said from the side. Enterprises also need a good business environment, and I hope Director Chen, please review carefully. That's for sure. We don't want to see something like this happen. Mayor Zhou and others walked to the restaurant. Although He Zheng kept saying that it was okay to eat, Mayor Zhou repeatedly said that it was okay. Everyone entered. Lu Feng held his waist with his hands and looked at Liuqin and asked, "Are you okay?" "It's okay, I just received a few punches." "If this happens, it will be troublesome," Liuqin said with some fear. Several people were pressed into the police car. The man who first walked in front of Lu Feng was stopped by Lu Feng with his hand. The man was now much more awake, and his eyes were still staring at Lu Feng with an unkind look. "What are you looking at?" Lu Feng looked at him and said, "I tell you, you are also lucky. A few years ago, you would not have been so lucky." The other party looked at Lu Feng with disdain on his face and said, "I'll squat for a few days at most. Don't let me meet you again." "Okay, you have to come out first before we talk about this." Lu Feng didn't talk nonsense to him. He had seen many such earthwork bastards, but now he didn't bother to wade into such muddy waters. Several people were pulled into the police car, and Lu Feng walked inside expressionlessly. The meal in the evening was quite boring. Mayor Zhou apologized several times at the dinner table, but he was also secretly afraid. Fortunately, he was from the Science and Technology Committee. If he was from the police above, it would be a slap in his face. Mayor Zhou's health is very important. "Why don't we put aside the inspection tomorrow and let's recover a little before we talk about it?" He Zheng said to Mayor Zhou. "It's okay, I can accompany you tomorrow," Vice Mayor Lu said hurriedly. "Both Deputy District Chief Li and Mr. Lu are injured, it's better to see a doctor first," He Zheng said very considerately. "Actually, Jiafeng's technology is almost understood now. I believe Jiafeng has completely broken through the technical blockade. We are not in a hurry for this time, I just happened to report on the work by phone in the past 2 days. Then let's do what team leader he wants, but I hope we won't mention this matter tonight," Mayor Zhou said awkwardly. "Don't worry, there are ruffians everywhere," He Zheng said considerately. The dinner party broke up before 9 o'clock in the evening. Everyone went to the hospital overnight, but Lu Feng had nothing to do. He sat in the same car with Liuqin and took him home first. "Mr. Lu, am I going to accompany you or not?" Liuqin looked at Lu Feng beside him and asked. "There are quite a lot of things going on in the company. Just be busy with your business. We still need to pay close attention to research and development and strive for mass production of chips next year. Which field has the greatest demand for chips now will be produced in that field. As for chip design, there is no need to be too restricted by patent issues. In mobile phone chips we need to get out of the laboratory as soon as possible," Lu Feng ordered, lighting a cigarette. "Okay, I'll try my best, but there is good news. DVDs will be mass-produced by the end of this year, and all experiments in the R/U0026D center are very stable." "Good thing," Lu Feng took a puff of cigarette, silently calculating the days in his mind, and said, "The storm is coming soon. By then, Jiafeng's situation may be even more dangerous than when he was beaten just now. It will get better." After Liuqin finished speaking, he suddenly remembered something and said hurriedly, "If you want to produce mobile phone chips next year, you must buy a photolithography machine this year. Orders for this thing are very slow. Finland has advanced photolithography equipment. It takes 2 or 3 years to arrange an order. Buy second-hand ones. I'll contact you about this. 50 or 60% of the equipment imported from abroad can be used in chip production. If you introduce half a set of equipment with photolithography machines as the main ones, Basically it'll be fine. After Lu Feng finished speaking, he leaned back in his position and closed his eyes to rest. After a while, he muttered, I'm just afraid that trouble will come as soon as the chip is produced. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1083. Latest website. Liukan didn't know how to answer when he heard this. As long as he understood the dilemma Lu Feng was about to face, everyone would have a headache for him. But at this point, he had no way out. Perhaps this is the price Jia Feng pays for its impact on high-end manufacturing. Just as Lu Feng often said in meetings a few years ago, if I am just for money, I don't have to do this. At night, the inspection team returned to the hotel where they stayed to rest. A group of people had a brief chat in the hotel room. From what they saw so far, it was basically impossible for Jia Feng to make a technical fraud. Judging from the information presented, it is relatively complete. Whether it involves technical patent infringement is not something they can determine. Since they dare to declare, it means they are confident. There is no need to lie about this kind of thing. Now my idea is that it is not easy for us to come here. Isn't it a big loss to go back like this? He Zheng looked at everyone and asked Road. Everyone immediately understood what He Zheng meant. It was not that he wanted to make money, but that he wanted to gain some credit and be promoted much faster than others in the future. Isn't this matter difficult to handle? The deputy team leader muttered softly. If it takes 2 days, it will be difficult to handle. The beating that Mayor Zhou received tonight was really good. Think about it, now that technology has made a breakthrough, the next step is industrialization. We have been if a guiding opinion is given to Shenzhen semiconductor industry, and Jia Feng Group and the city agree that it is good, then it will happen. He Zheng expressed his inner thoughts. Everyone nodded. This was indeed an opportunity to show off. Seeing that everyone agreed, He Zheng slowly felt relieved. This was created by everyone together. What he wanted was for him to personally give guidance to Jia Feng's engineers on key points. If you make another breakthrough, let the local newspaper report it well. If you go back with this credit, it will be completely different. Next time the leaders come, they will definitely accompany you. It was already 10 o'clock in the evening. He Zheng asked everyone to go back to the house to rest and then called Mayor Zhou's secretary to inquire about the injury. Mayor Zhou answered the phone and said, "It's so late, team leader, he hasn't had a rest yet. Thank you for your hard work. I don't have anything to do. As long as you're fine. As for me, I'm going to call you tomorrow to report the situation and let you know in advance," He Zheng said towards the phone. Mayor Zhou immediately reacted when he heard this. He told himself over and over again in advance that someone wanted to report it. This was obviously something. Then please give me a few nice words, team leader he. It's not easy now. If you have any ideas, just say it. It's what we should do to receive the inspection team. Mayor Zhou struggled to sit up and lean on the bed. Any ideas? I just do what I should do. But after reading today, I feel that there is a lack of guidance on future industrialization. If you are willing, we can write some in the next few days. Also, I think Jia Feng Group has not done enough in some aspects of the chip and needs my guidance. Then we can do some interviews or something. What do you think? He Zheng asked on the phone. It's okay to promote it? This kind of thing is mutually beneficial, right? The city still wants to support it? You can come to my office tomorrow for an interview, Mayor Zhou replied. When He Zheng heard this, he already understood that the matter was settled. He smiled and agreed repeatedly, asking him to cultivate himself well, and then hung up the phone. It has been almost 24 hours since many companies in Silicon Valley spoke out against Jia Feng Group. As it spread across the ocean and reached the inland, many newspapers immediately adjusted their layouts after receiving the news and put this news at the forefront. Headlines. In the United States, Many technology companies in Silicon Valley and Wall Street investment companies held meetings, submitted several proposals on technology security, and directly held meetings with the Technology Security Department, with multiple departments participating in the meeting. At the meeting, the heads of many Silicon Valley high-tech companies said that this incident is extremely terrible. Ensuring high-end technology leadership is the way for American companies to survive. Moreover, GFN has made a very bad start and must not hesitate to do so. Contain it at all costs, otherwise other countries will follow suit. It's not scary to have one more good peak in this world, but what's scary is that there's one more role model. Since GFN is a Chinese company, this matter quickly attracted high-level attention. Among Silicon Valley companies, Motorola and other companies proposed in their plans to sanction GFN electronics in the semiconductor field. The original idea of this plan was proposed by Xi Watanabe, and he also proposed to block China's entry into high-tech, otherwise if a GFN is destroyed, other companies will emerge. These opinions were fully incorporated. After a preliminary meeting, a general direction was established. Sanctions were imposed on GFN Group and Lu Feng himself, and a global high-end technology alliance was formed. The notorious Wassenaar Agreement in the international science and technology community was thus established. Took shape. Everything is unfolding slowly with the process of history, except that in addition to the Wassenaar Agreement, there is one more Chinese person. In Europe, many countries jointly set up an investigation team to formally investigate the overseas branches of GFN Group. The court also issued an international arrest warrant for Lu Feng. The extradition documents were sent to China. The hundreds of pages of content made those responsible for external affairs dumbfounded. Yes, the number of crimes listed in it is jaw-dropping. The other party demanded that Lu Feng be arrested in China first, all assets of the GFN Group be frozen, and be transferred to the London High Court within 5 working days. He would be tried at the EU headquarters and compensate the millions of victims in several countries. The Foreign Affairs Department did not dare to delay and reported the matter immediately. This time Lu Feng really broke the news. The Public Security Department contacted the Shenzhen police overnight to confirm whether Lu Feng was in the country. It is not yet certain about this matter. The phone call demanded that Lu Feng not be allowed to be let go. Major airlines immediately froze Lu Feng's passport. Early the next morning, it was the most ordinary day for everyone, and it was almost the same for Lu Feng. He got up at around 7 o'clock and had breakfast. He was sleepy and complained, "I have nothing to do today." Mayor Zhou and his gang were beaten up. "They have been resting for the past 2 days, why did they ask me to get up so early?" "You feel good when you wake up early." Zhang Xiaoyan glanced at Duo while eating and said, "Don't let her play on the computer anymore. It's time to do homework today. You have nothing to do at home with your children to do homework." "Should I accompany her to do her homework?" Lu Feng heard that this task was one step at a time. Duo sat there with an unhappy face, looking at Lu Feng as if to say, "We are living well here, why did you ask her to come?" "Don't be upset, watch TV for a while and see if there are any cartoons," Lu Feng ordered. Duo turned on the TV, and a local channel popped up, playing news. The female host faced the camera and said, "Overseas news. Yesterday, the Wall Street Journal published an interview with many companies in Silicon Valley, including the CEO of Motorola." The other party stated that GFN Group's recent announcement of breakthroughs in multiple core technologies in the semiconductor field infringed on the technology patents of many companies. Many American technology companies stated that GFN Group was established less than 6 years ago. To become an industry-leading presence in the semiconductor field, it requires decades of technology accumulation. Such short-term breakthroughs will either infringe upon the company's patent rights or either baseless and false propaganda, and they hope to start a dialogue with GFN Group. This is not only GFN Group's own matter, but also a global crisis of trust in science and technology. Many of the people in charge mentioned Mr. Lu Feng, the founder of GFN Group, and said that Lu Feng has a bad reputation and has been doing things full of deception. They do not doubt GFN Group, but are targeting Lu Feng. If GFN Group has no problem, they warmly welcome us, and the global semiconductor industry will send flowers and applause. After watching Duo, he looked back at Lu Feng and said, for a few seconds, the people on TV seem to be scolding you. I'm just a host, don't talk nonsense, it's foreign devils who are causing trouble, Lu Feng said angrily. Zhang Xiaoyan watched the TV, turned back to look at Lu Feng, put down her chopsticks, and asked, why are there so many things going on abroad? Where are you going? Lu Feng leaned on the sofa and lit a cigarette. I don't know why you are doing these things for a day, just take your time, you can't live a good life, just mess around, Zhang Xiaoyan muttered. She didn't understand Lu Feng. In her eyes, he just made money and lived his own life. All right. You have to mess around. If you don't bother, they will be pinned to the ground and hammered. Lu Feng looked at the two of them, got vaccinated in advance, and said, if you can't take care of a lot, just find a nanny. If it doesn't work out, you'll have to go in for a few days. How many days have you been in? Why do you want to go in again? Zhang Xiaoyan didn't know how many times he had been arrested, so she asked Lu Feng, what's going on this time? Just because of the patent? No, it's about money. You don't know what the environment is like in our country. Have you ever seen anyone arrested for patent infringement? Lu Feng took a deep puff of cigarette and said, it's about money. What money? You are not short of money. Although Zhang Xiaoyan usually didn't want to talk to him, but if something really happened, she still couldn't help but feel anxious. It's just that the overseas company made some money, so don't worry about it. Lu Feng waved his hand and said, go to work, I'll stay at home. How can Zhang Xiaoyan still have the energy to go to work? She can still find connections in China. This is already international. How can she do it? Seeing Lu Feng's indescribable helplessness, she said angrily, you just lack people to take care of you. In the past, domestic, it's okay to know people, the more you act, the bigger it becomes, and it's all done internationally. Oops, keep your voice down, it's so early in the morning, it makes my head hurt. Lu Feng lay halfly on the sofa and continued to smoke. The two argued for only 5 minutes when a police car stopped at the door of the villa. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1084. Latest website. When Zhang Xiaoyan saw the police coming, her face instantly turned pale. She turned around and looked at Lu Feng, who was a little exhausted. He had been busy with too many things in the past few years. Hello, are you Mr. Lu Feng from GFN Group? The leader walked in and asked. Seeing the worry written on Zhang Xiaoyan's face, Lu Feng comforted him and said, don't worry blindly. I'm being very polite. It's a small matter. You can do your business. I am, if you have anything to do, sit down and tell me. No need, I believe you also know why we came to you, right? Such a big thing overseas cannot be hidden. Several countries in the world have been alarmed the police did not follow Lu Feng in circles. They couldn't control the matter. As for Lu Feng's matter, they also heard that the leader just asked them to bring him back. Isn't it just that the company went bankrupt and there was a debt dispute? Lu Feng said indifferently. A little, the policeman next to him couldn't help but said, $100 billion, a little. How much? Lu Feng's voice rose several times higher. Zhang Xiaoyan's face was also full of disbelief. 100 billion was still US dollars. This number was like a huge mountain. Even though she already considered herself a rich woman, she still felt out of breath at this moment. Mr. Lu, we have also heard about this. We are not sure about the details. You might as well come with us. Lu Feng didn't react at first. After thinking about it for a while, he had already thought about it. He stood up, took a deep breath and muttered, they are still ruthless in making money. Before leaving, Zhang Xiaoyan was reassured so that she didn't have to worry too much, and then she went out with 2 policemen. When she arrived at the Public Security Bureau, she was invited to Director Chen's office. A few minutes later, Director Chen opened the door and walked in. Looking at Lu Feng, he scratched his head in annoyance, picked up the enamel jar on the table, dropped some tea leaves, took a cup of hot water for himself, and said, "I've been drinking for the past 2 days. There are really many things. There are newspapers on the table, you can read it yourself, and there is also a Wall Street Journal. By the way, now you have been restricted from leaving the country." Lu Feng picked up the newspaper on the table and read it. Most of the media were financial media. The headlines were simply that Jia Feng's technology was stolen from abroad. Many high-tech companies jointly denounced it. Restricting exit. "This is a good thing," Lu Feng nodded and said, "I heard that some countries accused me of defrauding 100 billion. Director Chen sat down and looked at Lu Feng and said, "Do you know that things are blowing up above? I heard that when I called Mayor Zhou, the person on the other end of the phone was swearing. The international environment is very bad now. You will never do this, it's adding fuel to the fire." Director Chen looked like he was having trouble. It seemed that he was not ready to arrest Lu Feng first. Lu Feng finally calmed down. "What 100 billion? I don't know about this. I lost my passport at the end of last year and I haven't found it until now. I told you that I have a twin brother who looks exactly like me. Do you believe it?" Lu Feng asked, staring at him. "Do you dare to talk more?" Director Chen picked up the teacup and took a sip. "There is definitely no 100 billion US dollars. All the business activities I carried out there were approved by the local government, the procedures were complete, and I signed contracts with all agents. It was a legitimate business activity. If you make a profit, you will lose money. If the other party wants to cause trouble, I suggest that the trial be held in Shenzhen Court, preferably Nanshan Court," Lu Feng said to Director Chen. "Nanshan District? Isn't your company located in Luohu District?" Director Chen wondered. "Do you think the relationship between me and Deputy District Chief Li can be put aside to litigate? As long as you are in the country, you should be at ease. I heard that you have been wanted internationally and are asking for extradition no matter where you are. Mayor Zhou asked you to come here today. The main reason is to see if you run away. The specific situation still requires resolution from above," Director Chen said truthfully. Lu Feng nodded and knew in his heart that he was fine. This matter seemed to be a joke. If a death row prisoner invented controllable nuclear fusion before execution, should he continue to execute him? The answer is, where did this death row prisoner come from? He is a bad person. Deliberate attacks on scientists. Little did Lu Feng know that when this incident happened last night, the police almost arrested him. The people from the Science and Technology Committee immediately stopped him when they heard about it. In addition, Tingting's father also asked about it after hearing about it. After careful consideration, we decided to restrict him from leaving the country. In the morning, as Jia Feng was reprimanded by many major international technology companies, it caused a big earthquake in the domestic technology circle. For a while, countless senior engineers scolded Jia Feng for being shameless, and even talked among themselves that if it were the United States, Jia Feng would be such a rubbish. Businesses simply cannot survive because as long as they lose their reputation there, they lose everything. Not only were people scolding Lu Feng, Liukin was also scolded this time. Several of his previous colleagues even called him to scold him. If you are with such people, you will eventually go down a shameless path, even if this matter is for domestic engineers are tarnished on their international image. Mr. Lu, I used to think you were an ideal engineer, but I didn't expect that you have reached this level now. You are rich now, but I tell you, you will always be a plagiarist in your life. As long as Lu Feng gives you if you have a bone, you will do anything. The person on the other end of the phone was cursing and panting. Lyokin's face was dark and solemn as he listened to these words. When he heard that the other end of the phone stopped scolding him, he said with mixed emotions what Lu Feng had said to him before: "We have memorized the scoldings," and pretended that the microphone was not in our hands at that time. "I couldn't shout at the other party even if I shouted at the top of my lungs. I just hope that you will work hard to expand your industry and let the seed that you think was stolen sprout. That's it. Goodbye." Pooh. When Lyokin hung up the phone, he heard such a sound, and he couldn't help but blush. This morning, countless of his former friends called, and even if they weren't abusive, their words were full of disdain. In the capital, deputies from multiple departments were sitting in a conference room. The Jiafeng Group incident could be said to be a thunderbolt. The Foreign Affairs Department was the first to speak. Everyone is aware of this matter. It's probably the case with those in Europe. The statistical data for this country is $100 billion. It is impossible to recognize this number. What do you want to say? The representative of the Procuratorate looked at the things in his hands and said thoughtfully, "We must first determine one thing, that is Jiafeng Group, or should we say this Lu Feng, has he broken the law?" This idea suddenly opened up space for everyone's imagination. The documents provided by the other party show that Lu Feng committed fraud, illegal fundraising, and pyramid schemes. The establishment of the crime of fraud requires an important node, which is to fabricate facts or cause others to panic, causing the other party to make crimes caused by wrong judgment. After looking at the above materials, this does not constitute fraud. As for illegal fundraising, it is relatively false. There are also pyramid schemes, which are even more false. There are products, profit models, formal contracts, and formal registrations. It's more difficult to identify the main unit. Everyone, look at me and I look at you. There seems to be nothing worth discussing about this matter. Can't we just hand it over to the Procuratorate directly? The most important thing is that Jiafeng has now made a breakthrough in semiconductor technology. As a founder, if something goes wrong, the development of the company will be severely affected, the person from the Science and Technology Committee said bluntly. Hey. It has nothing to do with this. We enforce the law impartially. If you commit a crime, you will definitely be extradited. Everyone's thoughts suddenly became clear and they looked at each other. What kind of meeting is this? Then the prosecutors and courts will take the lead in setting up an international investigation team to contact them and ask them to provide more evidence. Good. Mayor Zhou was originally recuperating in the hospital. After hearing about this incident, he ignored his recuperation and was discharged directly. All kinds of public opinion swept through the morning. For the municipal government, it was also under huge pressure. Many foreign-funded enterprises, they began to exert pressure, saying that the business environment here was not protected and they were afraid. In the office, Mayor Zhou picked up the phone and called Director Chen directly. Hey, is he at your place? Here I am, what instructions? There's no news, please let him come to my place first. After Mayor Zhou said this, he felt his heartbeat was arrhythmia. He remembered the small overseas problems that Lu Feng told him yesterday. What the hell is this called a small problem? Is this called an economic dispute? Director Chen put down the phone and looked at Lu Feng and said, I want you to go to Mayor Zhou's office. Maybe there will be news in the next hour or two. I will send a police car to take you off. It was more of an escort than a delivery. Lu Feng felt helpless sitting in the minibus watching the 5 or 6 policemen around him staring at him. When we arrived at the municipal government, it happened to be lunchtime. In the private room of the cafeteria, Lu Feng looked at Mayor Zhou and Vice Mayor Lu with smiles on their faces, and said, Is it just in time for lunch? Then I'm welcome. Can you still eat it? Mayor Zhou's veins popped out angrily, and he yelled, What's going on with the 100 billion? Does the technology patent involve infringement of other companies' patents? Do you know what kind of pressure I bear? Vice Mayor Lu also had a serious face. He looked at Lu Feng and said, "Many foreign-funded companies have come to us and protested, saying that we do not protect patent rights and want to withdraw them from the mainland. You, a small stone, can directly. The international community has rejected all our efforts over the years." The smile on Lu Feng's face disappeared after hearing these words, and he said, "I just want to have a good meal. If you are not allowed to eat here, I will find another place to eat." "Eat? I'm afraid I'll spend the rest of my life in jail." Mayor Joe slammed the table angrily. Lu Feng watched the furious Mayor Joe standing there motionless for more than 10 seconds, and said, "Why are you angry? Those companies are trying to scare you, so that you can't even eat? Who plagiarized it? Who infringed the copyright? If they say yes, then that's it." Latest website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1085. Latest website. Mayor Joe's head had been tortured for the past 2 days. Not only his skin and muscles hurt, but his brain also hurt. Now that Lu Feng was yelling at him in front of him, he immediately became angry. It is not easy to attract these foreign investments. The entire municipal government has been busy for more than 10 years. If there is an economic problem in his own hands, he cannot afford to bear the blame. Do you think your GFN group is very powerful? This city can't move without you. This city is supported by thousands of companies and needs to have a reputation overseas. If those companies are distrustful, tell me, what should I do? Mayor Joe slapped the table and cursed, "I can't even recover the damage even if I shoot you." "Shoot me? Come on, I've gotten myself into this, what's left of me?" Lu Feng also got up and yelled at several people, "Why don't you think about it? What's the point of those foreign investors? If you dare to move away, do you plan to let the people here do assembly line work for the rest of your life? Let me tell you, I understand your difficulties, but I am also doing something. Everything I do today is to prevent those foreign investors from tomorrow. If he dares to leave easily, we will tell him to get out. You are plagiarizing when you open your mouth. Do you understand technology? Do you know what GFN does? Where did those technologies come from? They were all poached from their companies at a high price. I spent European money to chase Fuzu America. I don't care about those spiritual foreigners and Fuzang people outside who even robbed them secretly. If you say that, I will go to the capital to sue you." The scene seemed to be uncontrollable. The large canteen outside the private room was silent. Everyone was busy eating. Those who could eat in this canteen were all cotters above the department level. They had never heard of the scene today. Why doesn't my voice sound like Mayor Joe's? The others looked at me and I looked at you, but they didn't say anything. This voice was obviously Lu Feng's. There was only one person in the country who was yelling curses here. The atmosphere in the private room has dropped to freezing point, and the scene is a bit unbearable. Lu Feng makes Mayor Joe very reluctant to come to the stage. He is worried about economic problems. Now the hollowing out of Asian industries has shown signs, and a new round of economic crisis is visible to the naked eye. How could he not worry about Shenzhen being affected? Seeing this, Vice Mayor Lu hurriedly stood up to smooth things over and said to Lu Feng, "Mr. Lu, you don't need to get excited. It's inappropriate to yell and scream." Mayor Joe also considers the overall situation. There are so many things going on in the past 2 days. It is not easy for foreign capital to come in. Behind every enterprise are thousands of families. It is easy to say that letting foreign capital leave, but if it really leaves, there will be a massive wave of unemployment. The unemployment wave will come when it's supposed to, and it can't be stopped. Lu Feng muttered, took out a cigarette from his pocket and lit one. No one else at the scene dared to speak. Mayor Joe sat there with a stern face. Deputy Mayor Lou persuaded, sit down. You can't just think about your own position when doing things. Mayor Joe won't argue with you. The question now is, what are they going to do about Europe's extradition request? We are just waiting for news, and Jiafeng's inspection will continue. Lu Feng sat down and had no intention of eating. Mayor Joe across from him still had gauze on his head. He was even more depressed and almost got out of the way. He originally thought that Jiafeng Group was a brilliant achievement, but it did such a thing. Son. Let's eat. You'd better stay here until the news arrives. Mayor Joe sighed slowly and continued, I think you should apologize in the media to put some pressure on those foreign investors. When Lu Feng heard this, he became angry instantly. He looked at Mayor Joe and was about to speak. Vice Mayor Lu was beside him with his face wrinkled like a mangy dog. He Lian waved his hand to signal him to stop talking. Lu Feng opened his mouth, but finally just took a puff of cigarette. Let's eat. All departments should handle their own affairs, appease foreign investors, and pay more attention to what some media say. Mayor Joe picked up his chopsticks and said, it is only a matter of time that problems arise in Asia's finance. Previously, when analyzing various countries' industries and exchange rate anchoring at the meeting, it was said that the next focus will be on optimizing the industrial structure and upgrading high-end manufacturing, expanding jobs and attracting foreign-funded enterprises, and we will discuss it at a meeting at that time. By the way, let the Shenzhen Chamber of Commerce hold a meeting, let Lu Feng be interviewed at the meeting, and use this opportunity to talk about it. Mayor Joe is still afraid that Jiafeng will suffer too many attacks. Lu Feng is not important, but Jiafeng is very important. Financial problems in Asian countries are particularly prominent. Several rounds of international financial risk warnings have been issued. Domestic state-owned enterprises are also a big problem. Shenzhen is particularly important at this time. Some abscesses will be punctured sooner or later. How can the industry go smoothly without going through some pain? This lunch was very boring. Not only Lu Feng, but also the entire Jiafeng group couldn't eat well. The attacks from the outside world became more and more fierce. Jiafeng seemed to have become a national shame at this moment, and many ordinary people who didn't know the inside story also followed suit. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, in the face of such a huge attack, Wei Yandan discussed with Zhu Lidong and several people in Liuqin on the phone and decided to publish a refutation of the rumors in the name of the company. At the same time, the Shenzhen Chamber of Commerce announced a meeting. The purpose of this meeting was to strengthen corporate exchanges and promote business prosperity. The meeting was an enlarged meeting, and only Lu Feng was included. As soon as the news came out, countless reporters rushed towards the hotel where the meeting was held. At less than 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Lu Feng arrived downstairs in the hotel by car, followed by several staff members in suits. Before he could reach the door, a large number of reporters gathered around him, microphones on top of each other, and all kinds of questions came like raindrops. There were even insults mixed in. Please respond to whether Jiafeng Group's core semiconductor technology infringes upon the patent rights of other companies. What do you think of the rebuke from Motorola, Sony, and other companies? You've disgraced all the Chinese people, you idiot. Trash, liar, you are a liar. Lu Feng stood there and looked at the expressionless faces in front of him. After a while, he said, first of all, I am not currently in the management position of Jiafeng Group. As the founder, I would like to say here that Jiafeng Group has a strong reputation in technology patents. There is no infringement of the patent rights of other companies, and it's not like the domestic bosses will confirm this matter just because the outside masters complain. So how did Jiafeng achieve technological breakthroughs in such a short period of time, after more than 10 years of technological accumulation abroad? The reporter asked again. Simple, just spend money. How much have we invested? Almost $2 billion.
We are jointly building our /U0026D centers with Nokia overseas. In Sweden, Fuzhou, and many European countries, we are cooperating with our /U0026D institutions and universities. I know a lot of people are scolding me, but I don't understand technology either. Do those scolding people understand technology? So if they understand technology and don't engage in our /U0026D, then they just keep cursing. The biggest controversy this time is that overseas companies believe that GFN has constituted infringement. Many people believe that so many famous companies are attacking GFN Group, which has a very bad image in the international community, and many companies are responsible for. People said during the interview that you have always relied on cheating to get around. A female reporter from behind asked. Famous? Not necessarily. It's just an interest group. Anyone can do core high-tech, but we can't do it. We are still far away from the mass production of chips. If this is mass production, why don't we call you? I still in that sentence. GFN is doing his own thing, above board, stepping on the tail of the dogs of outside companies and letting them bark at will. As for saying I lied, who did I lie to? Lu Feng said righteously to the camera, I have done so many good things internationally, why is no one publicizing it? My character can stand the test, and everyone who has dealt with me will give me a thumbs up, no matter which country they are from. Today there is news that many foreign invested companies are feeling uneasy and even claiming that they plan to withdraw in the future. Are you sorry for the negative impact it has caused? Why should I apologize? It can go away if it wants. Are those companies invited in? To do charity? Then it's not all about money. Before Lu Feng finished speaking, he was pulled back by the people behind him, and he hurriedly whispered to him, you are asked to lower the fire, not to raise the fire. The crowd grew larger and larger, and some people were even scolding from behind. A tall man shouted at Lu Feng, you're humming plagiarizing other people's stuff. Why are you so awesome? Grandson, come here the hum, do you want me to deal with you? Lu Feng yelled in a loud voice, and several people behind him pulled him so that he could not continue the interview. The other party shouted, you are a business owner, do you have the qualities? What qualities do I need for a primary school graduate? If you have the guts, come here, don't pull me, damn, you are so angry, saying that I have no qualities? If I don't have the qualities, you have no mother, okay. Lu Feng casually moved toward me. He touched the head next to him, grabbed a hat and smashed it out. Several plainclothes policemen saw something was wrong and pulled him inside. An unprecedented interview ended. Many reporters at the scene shook their heads. They had never seen anything like this. Today was an eye-opener. After entering the hotel, Lu Feng straightened his clothes and seemed to be in a very bad mood. The person next to him said to him, Mayor Joe hopes that you can calm down the fire. This is not a matter of lowering the fire, this is a matter of bullying. Do they dare to leave? I won't talk about them anymore. I keep yelling to leave every time. Do you know how much it costs to move? Lu Feng said angrily, I bet they don't dare to leave. Several other people were speechless when they heard this. You can afford to block it, but Mayor Joe can't afford to gamble. There were already number 67 people in the hotel banquet hall. Less than half of the people here looked familiar. When they saw Lu Feng coming, they muttered that they knew this person could cause trouble. Ever since they handed over the TV business to Zhu Lidong, since then, no one has heard of him doing anything wrong. Some people outside have been saying that he was squeezed out by foreigners, and some people said that he took the money to be cool, but he didn't expect to hold back such a big move. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1086. Latest website. Today's Chamber of Commerce meeting was entirely for Lu Feng. Everyone seemed to be chatting away with nothing to do. Their eyes glanced at Lu Feng from time to time. The business community was the most well-informed. Some people had already heard about things in Europe. In private, they were whispering. A man in his 50s came to the front and said to everyone, "Everyone, please be quiet. I have called you here in such a hurry today. I believe everyone knows that these are troubled times. Our Chamber of Commerce aims to serve enterprises. We are doing well, although Feng Group is not a member of our Chamber of Commerce. As a leading domestic electronics company, we should be more united. In the city, I hope we can learn more from GFN Group and put innovation and learning first. We are in an extraordinary moment now. Asia Finance keeps issuing warnings and the domestic situation is not optimistic. I have said so much. Who can still, if you want to say a few words, you can share your thoughts on the industry or the domestic market, and let's discuss it." Everyone present, look at me, I look at you, no one stood up. To put it bluntly, these people don't care about domestic and international matters at all. They care more about whether they can make money. As for the industry, of course they hope that the whole industry will after death, only myself is left. Lu Feng saw that everyone was silent and said, "Then let me say a few words." Mr. Lu said a few words, "Everyone is welcome." The president took the lead in applauding. Thinking of the sparse applause at the scene, Lu Feng walked forward and looked at these people. They were real businessmen. Those who came to Shenzhen in the 1990s to develop and work hard to create a world were definitely not ordinary people. Most of them had academic qualifications. They are not tall, they dare to fight hard, they are smart and clever, and they have enough brains to calculate their own 1/3 of an acre. As for the development of the industry and the international environment, they do not understand. Lu Feng stood in front and looked at the dozens of people in front of him. All of them were older than him. Many people looked at him quite unconvinced, with disdain in their eyes. This is an era of nouveau riche, with mobile phones hanging around their waists and big gold rings on their hands. Everyone has the opportunity to become bigger and stronger. A lot of things have happened recently. You may not understand some of the words in the newspapers. Let me tell you something simple. There are several types of jobs in the world. One is odd jobs, the other is workers, and the other is bosses. What we are doing now is just odd jobs. So who are the workers? They are companies that have mastered high-end technology. Everyone has heard that 100 million shirts can be exchanged for an airplane. So why can't we make airplanes? What I want to say is, everyone in all walks of life, but you can't keep a shirt all your life. It's obviously more profitable to make airplanes. The reason is very simple. GFN wants to move higher, but compared to domestic industrial upgrading, GFN has taken greater steps. The position in this world is fixed. If you master the technology and break the monopoly market, how can others make a profit? You can think about it. Your factory is a cannery company, and one day someone suddenly masters the canning technology. Can you tolerate him? The principles in the world are the same. Foreign companies cannot tolerate GFN, so all kinds of smears have come out. Even if I am assassinated one day, it is not impossible. I am blocking people's way of making money, but think about it, everyone, if you want to become bigger and stronger, you must upgrade your industry. Lu Feng glanced at the scene and said in a deep voice, "I can tell you that in the next 10 years, the international community will only abuse us more, and it is not just abuse, there will also be warships, aircraft, and artillery coming. I don't care about the many abuses I get from people like traitors and lackeys and scammers. Because compared to 1 billion people in the country, there are too few people who scold me. Of course, some of you here may also look down on me. I just want to say one thing, I hope everyone gets rich, but I hope everyone will get rich after they get rich. The money should be invested in talent training and industrial upgrading, rather than making money and going abroad. A few years ago, I told everyone present at an electronics industry conference that if they didn't invest money in research and development, I would kill them one by one.
Everyone has seen the bloody storm in the home appliance industry in the past few years. Well, some people may be thinking that if you join forces with a few bosses and everyone is ruined, it will be done once and for all. Don't worry, the country will introduce a joint venture from abroad to kill you. Having said so much, I hope everyone will work hard to seize the jobs of companies in developed countries. We must also stand at the top of industrial manufacturing, be a boss, and let companies from other countries provide us with supporting services, and even do miscellaneous tasks for us. Say this. The president took the lead in clapping, and there was only sparse applause. The president also seemed quite embarrassed in this situation, and whispered to Lu Feng, "Everyone still can't understand what you said." "I understand." "Can't understand?" "Haha, they are just a bunch of goods that need to be dealt with," Lu Feng snorted coldly. Lu Feng's words were absolutely correct. Among the bosses present, he didn't see a familiar face from more than 10 years later. If it weren't for his incompetence, Lu Feng would definitely enter their industry and teach them a solid lesson. Just like in the current home appliance industry, each one is more well-behaved than the other. The outside world is turbulent, and the country has responded to European countries, asking them to provide corresponding evidence, and domestic verification will be carried out. If it is indeed a crime, it will not be tolerated. After receiving the news in the evening, several major countries immediately understood that this person was afraid that he would not be extradited. After notifying each other, they unanimously decided to reveal it, issued a wanted order, and cooperated with the world to arrest, including but not limited to GFN Group senior executives. At the same time, GFN Group's international credit rating was lowered and loan financing to GFN Group was prohibited. Before using this series of methods, he also specifically communicated with the Schroeder Group. When John got the news, he leaned on the bed and thought for several minutes before giving the answer. It can be implemented and will not affect our interests in GFN Group. After hanging up the phone, John couldn't sleep. He originally thought that GFN Group would develop stably in the semiconductor industry before taking action, but now it seems that he can't wait until that time. Although GFN now has technology patents, it has not formed a talent system, and the follow-up is relatively weak. For the Schroeder's Group, it is not very useful, but they will never lose money. As long as they can control the company, GFN, there is still a lot of money available now. If the semiconductor industry within the group is separated and sold to companies in the United States or Fuzhou, the other party will definitely give a high price. John is not worried at all about the high-priced acquisition of GFN by these two countries. Who doesn't know the secret of their maintaining technological leadership over the years? As long as a strong company appears, they will buy it, then refrigerate it and kill it. John made a rough estimate. If it were sold, investing in GFN would bring at least double the income. This was definitely a very successful investment. Domestically, at 4:30 p.m., the municipal government received a message from the province that it would not deal with GFN Group for the time being, but it would never allow Lu Feng to leave the country. It would speed up the inspection of GFN Semiconductor's results and implement the relevant results. It must be realistic. There must be no fraud. Almost at the same time, He Zheng's team also received a call, asking them to complete the inspection as soon as possible. If there are no problems, the relevant leaders of the Science and Technology Commission and technical experts will start the inspection. Lu Feng's case has exploded around the world. It is definitely a highlight in the history of news. He is a business legend and a fraudster. The figure of hundreds of billions of dollars is too challenging for people's nerves. If you want to ask where the news is the fastest, Xiangjiang is definitely the first. In the evening, the TV news and various evening newspapers are reporting on this matter. In the chairman's office of the United Capitol building, Su Yurong took off his high heels and relaxed his feet. The TV opposite was turned on. The news host was talking about this matter, and several commentators next to him joked,
This time Mr. Lu from mainland China is definitely the richest man in the world, and is recognized as the richest man in many European countries. His assets are definitely worth it, and they have real cash. Su Yorong picked up the remote control and turned off the TV. She couldn't believe that this was Lu Feng's doing. Back then, she asked him to engage in smuggling with her, but now he dared to go to Europe to commit fraud? Previously, Lu Feng's troubles had frightened several major shareholders of the group. This time, she was a little scared. If all the assets of GFN Group were frozen, all the money of their investors would be wasted. Su Yorong didn't think much and hurriedly called the group headquarters. After the call was connected, the call was transferred to Wei Yandan. Wei Yandan assured Lu Feng that there was no problem and that the company was operating normally. Su Yorong couldn't believe it and asked for Lu Feng's phone number, so Wei Yandan had no choice but to give her Lu Feng's home phone number. The call was made. Not long after Zhang Xiaoyan and Duo Duo came back, there was a lot of disturbance from the outside world. Zhang Xiaoyan was not in the mood to work. She was sitting on the sofa in a daze. This time the noise was so huge that she didn't know if she could get through. The phone rang suddenly. Zhang Xiaoyan was startled and said hurriedly, "Duo Duo, answer the phone. It may be your father's." Duo Duo quickly picked up the phone and asked, "Dad, someone said you were going to be shot. Is it true?" "Shoot him to death." Su Yorong was startled by these words and asked hurriedly, "Did the court say that he should be shot to death?" "Who said we should be shot? You kid, you know how to irritate people all day long," Zhang Xiaoyan scolded Duo Duo angrily. Duo Duo's eyes turned red for a moment. This time, she also felt that something was not right. Many people outside said that her father was in big trouble and that he would be shot lightly. "Who is it?" Zhang Xiaoyan asked after taking the phone. "Where is Lu Feng now? Has he been detained?" Su Yorong's voice came over the phone. After such a long time, Zhang Xiaoyan still remembered this voice, and her mind instantly flashed back to Su Yorong's lofty look as if she was looking at a country bumpkin when she stood at her home. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1087. Latest website. "Are you that Su Yorong?" Zhang Xiaoyan asked towards the phone. "Hey, can you still hear it?" Su Yorong looked surprised and asked, "How is Lu Feng doing now? I want to talk to him." "He is not at home. He was picked up by people from the Public Security Bureau in the morning and he has not come back yet." Su Yorong frowned when he heard this and asked, "Have you been detained?" "I'm not sure. About the company, you'd better ask Mr. Wei," Zhang Xiaoyan replied. "If he comes back, make sure he calls me back as soon as possible." After Su Yorong finished speaking, she hung up the phone and sat there looking at the sunset outside the window. A bit of sadness appeared on her pretty face. Things this time were completely different from before. Sun Hongkai also learned about the relevant situation at the first time, but Jenkin did not go to Lu Feng immediately. He first collected some information from abroad and held a meeting. Mr. Feng was hospitalized again 2 months ago. This time his condition was even worse than last time. He was unable to be discharged from the hospital and basically no longer interfered with the internal affairs of the group. Feng Xiao looked at the news in front of him and was quite worried about Lu Feng. He asked, "I wonder how Brother Feng is doing now? Have you contacted him?" Everyone in the conference room looked at Feng Xiao and said nothing. Now everyone is concerned about money issues. He still worries about his brother Feng? We don't need to worry about Mr. Lu's matter. The most important thing now is the mainland's attitude towards this extradition request. If we implement the plan given by Europe, we will suffer huge losses. But this one thing to note is that GFN Group's major shareholder is Schroders Group, which includes British interests. For emergencies like this, I think we should communicate with the Schroders Group first and wait until the matter becomes clearer before making a decision.
Because Mr. Feng is ill, we hope that everyone will not disturb his elderly family. We will prepare a variety of response plans to avoid various situations. Jenkins' incidents at GFN Group are no longer considered emergencies. If other invested companies had done something like this, they would have intervened as soon as possible, but if Lu Feng did it, it would be no big deal. It's high risk and high return. In the past half year, Feng Xiao has made rapid progress in his work, and can basically handle some things. Jenkins has noticed his progress, but he has also seen his fatal flaw, which is that he is too kind. For a person working in finance, kindness is the biggest sin. After the meeting dispersed, Feng Xiao looked a little anxious and said to Jenkins, "Uncle Kun, if something really happens, we should apply for asset preservation in advance and freeze Brother Feng's personal assets, right? Don't worry, the contract we originally signed contains relevant authority restrictions on the management. Although he has passed the board of directors' resolution to do these things overseas, we can sue him on the grounds of exceeding the scope of authority. Without the approval of the directors, if the Bureau authorizes it, causing heavy losses to investors, it can be recovered. Although the wolves will share the food when the time comes, we will definitely get some back." Jenkins comforted. "I'm not talking about this. If something happens this time, he won't even have a house in his name, and he will be in jail. How will he live after he is released?" Feng Xiao looked worried and said, "If it really comes to that, I have to just be merciful and merciful." Faced with these words, Jenkins didn't know what to say, he just looked at him, he. After speaking, he patted his shoulder and walked out. Feng Xiao didn't know what Jenkins meant, so he walked out of the conference room and returned to the office to call Lu Feng to inquire. As the above news was conveyed, Lu Feng had been released. GFN Group headquarters and R/U0026D companies refuted the rumors. Liukin himself went on TV to be interviewed in person and explained some technical matters, but he forgot, and how many people can understand the jerky and awkward professional knowledge in his mouth, who cares? In the hotel, He Zheng talked on the phone with the Science and Technology Committee for more than an hour, asking them to carry out business as usual, not to let the outside world disturb them, and to get to know Jiafeng's situation thoroughly. After dinner, He Zheng held a brief meeting with the team members and asked them to focus on investigating the semiconductor technology of the R/U0026D company within 3 days. Whether foreign technology patents were involved must be clarified, at least internally. After the meeting, He Zheng immediately called Mayor Zhou. On the phone, he first talked about the inspection arrangements for GFN Group. After saying this, he continued, "I think we need to pay close attention to the layout of the semiconductor industry. Now the situation has changed, and what I said before remains unchanged." "No problem, we will arrange an inspection tomorrow morning. I don't think Lu Feng should show up. He has been very controversial recently and it is inappropriate to continue to appear on TV," Mayor Zhou suggested. "That doesn't matter." The two briefly exchanged a few words and hung up the phone. At home, just after dinner, Zhang Xiaoyan was sitting in the living room, stunned, with the door open and the wind blowing in from outside, looking quite comfortable. Duo was lying on the table writing her summer homework, and the happiness in happy summer vacation on the cover. The two words were crossed out by her pen. Lu Feng was half lying on the sofa watching TV. Zhang Xiaoyan took a deep breath and said, "A lot of people are looking for you today, all from Xiangjiang. Look for it. If such a big thing happens, those investors will go crazy." Lu Feng said nonchalantly, "Don't worry, be more relaxed. No matter how broad my heart is, I can't hold the Pacific Ocean." "Is Su Yorong still in contact?" Zhang Xiaoyan asked. "I haven't contacted her for a long time. Her company invested in GFN. It's normal for people to call and ask," Lu Feng replied. "Isn't she already bankrupt? Why does she still have a company in Xiangjiang?" Zhang Xiaoyan looked a little unbelievable. "If you go bankrupt,
you can start all over again. People like her can make their way anywhere, Lu Feng sighed as he recalled Su Yorong's methods. The first time I met her, I felt that she was not a good woman. Her posture made people very uncomfortable. Zhang Xiaoyan thought about how she felt useless back then. She was the hostess of the family and she had to control her aura. It doesn't matter whether it's good or not. Business matters don't matter. Lu Feng leaned on the sofa and said, just make money. I'm afraid I won't be able to go out in the next 2 years. Even if I go out, I have to use a fake passport. With a bit of anger, Zhang Xiaoyan folded her hands in front of her chest, suddenly stood up, slapped Lu Feng on the arm angrily, and then went upstairs. What's wrong? What are you angry about? Lu Feng was beaten inexplicably. Zhang Xiaoyan didn't say anything, just went upstairs. Lu Feng's cell phone that was charging suddenly rang. He picked up the phone and asked, who is it? Mr. Lu, it's me, Lu Feng. The city just called me and told me that the inspection will continue tomorrow, but you won't be allowed to show up. It's better to keep a low profile now, Liukan said. Okay, I just don't want to take care of it yet. Lu Feng was happy not to accompany him. One more thing. They cancelled the factory area and the formation of the R/U0026D Center. They gave us 3 days to talk about the key technical points and make sure internally whether it really involves patent rights. This is nothing. The key is, team leader he wants to give guidance and ask us to publish a report to praise him. He will also write a guidance opinion for the semiconductor industry to the city. This report is issued by the city. Liukan asked, is this appropriate? When Lu Feng heard this, he immediately understood. No wonder he looked at him with a sly look on his face and couldn't hold it in. Now that so much trouble has happened, he can't hold it in anymore. Inappropriate. This report is going to be published. What is R/U0026D company? Just come and give me personal guidance, and there will be new progress. We have invested so much money in hiring engineers before, why don't we just say a word? His face should be bright, do we have to be naked and embarrassed? Lu Feng was angry. This was definitely not okay. After thinking about it for a moment, he realized that this was a deal to flatter each other. There were so many doubts about Jia Feng from the outside world. If this matter was exposed, it would really be confirmed. Hua Feng, the money spent in foreign R/U0026D centers is transferred assets. Putting aside this for now, Jia Feng really won't get any benefit from doing this. Apart from adding a dazzling qualification to him, what else can it do? I'm telling you, you can't do this even if you die. It's not that we don't do business, we have to make some money. No fool can do this business. We have earned a good reputation in the market, and He Zheng has earned his qualifications. What did you earn? Believe it or not, if this thing is distributed, people will curse my 18 generations of ancestors. After Lu Feng finished talking to Liukan, he felt that he couldn't stand these people, so he continued, I will go there tomorrow too, and I will come forward to speak out. By the way, when will Zhu Lidong come back? Is it tomorrow? It seems like tomorrow, Liukan replied. If he comes back tomorrow, tell Mr. Wei and ask Mr. Zhu to come find me. That's it for now. Lu Feng finished the order and hung up the phone. Lu Feng asked Zhu Lidong to come back as soon as he finished his work a few days ago. Jia Feng can't delay the lithography machine. Once the Wassenaar agreement is implemented, it will be really difficult to buy second-hand lithography machines from abroad. Ascend to heaven. This must be arranged in advance. Before 10 o'clock in the evening, He Zheng took a shower and went to bed. He was not worried at all about tomorrow. Jia Feng Group was just a company at best, not to mention Lu Feng's current situation. He just didn't want to, so what could he do? For He Zheng, he has never looked at Lu Feng. Who is he? That officer, what is he? He is a citizen, not to mention that he is from the capital, and the arrogance in his heart is always there. Latest website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1088. Latest website. Lu Fengji was thinking about the photolithography machine on the sofa. This thing is not easy to buy. If people from the mainland buy it, they may not sell it. This matter must be entrusted to companies in Xiangjiang. The phone at home rang. Lu Feng answered the phone and asked, "Who is it?" "Brother Feng, it's me, Xiao." Feng Xiao's voice came from the other end of the phone, asking eagerly, "You haven't been arrested, have you?" "What do you think?" "You were calling my landline," Lu Feng said a little speechlessly. "I'm too anxious. I hope you're fine." "I'm afraid you'll be arrested." Feng Xiao learned that Lu Feng was fine. He randomly thought that the company should be fine too, and asked, "Then the company has not been frozen?" "No, don't worry. The company is running normally. These things are just the other side's invention. The mainland will not arrest me just because they issued an extradition letter. After all, we are a country governed by the rule of law." "Jenkin and the others don't want it too nervous," Lu Feng told him. Feng Xiao felt very good after hearing this and said happily, "I just said it's okay." A group of people had a meeting in the afternoon to talk about this matter. Although he didn't say what was discussed in the meeting, Lu Feng also guessed it and said to the phone, "Let them rest assured. By the way, if you are not busy recently, please pay attention to something for me." "Which company in the world?" "If a company sells a series of equipment such as photolithography machines, help me pay attention, preferably the latest model, which can produce millimeter-level chips." "Okay, I'll ask someone to ask around." "How's your dad doing lately?" Lu Feng asked casually. "It's not good. It's still the same problem as before. My health was not good to begin with. I was hospitalized again in May. This time it was even more serious. I relied on machines to maintain my health. My eldest brother and second brother came back to see me once. I'm afraid it's going to be difficult." Feng Xiao said. "I felt quite depressed at this point." "It will get better. You are getting older." "Are you in charge of the company now?" Lu Feng inquired. "That's right. On the big side, there are Uncle Kun and several presidents, and there is also a board of directors. I am only responsible for some financial business, which is to connect with listed companies, issue stocks, and so on. Work hard. You'd better hold the equity of Sun Hongkai in your hands, take advantage of this period to clean up the management, look for more people outside, and be familiar with the group's business." Lu Feng originally wanted to tell him, but later then he slowly took control of the board of directors, but it felt like he didn't have the means. After hanging up the phone, Lu Feng leaned on the sofa and pondered. If something happened to Mr. Feng at this time, with Feng Xiao's ability, he would not be able to control the overall situation, and the board of directors would probably lose control by then. Lu Feng seemed a little upset when he thought about this. He couldn't control so much, so he could just go wherever he went. GFN was not a product of this era. It was unpredictable. No one knew how it would develop in the future. "Okay, stop pretending to write, go to sleep." Lu Feng stood up and said to the pretentious Duoduo. Duoduo felt as if he was being pardoned after hearing this, and rushed upstairs with a smile on his face. The next day, at 8:30 in the morning, He Zheng and his party went to the R/U0026D company under the leadership of Vice Mayor Liu. Liukin led several senior executives to receive them, and the local media conducted follow-up reports. In the conference room, several engineers sat down with a lot of technical documents and began to talk in detail. For Deputy Mayor Liu and other people who did not understand technology, the on-site content was too boring, and less than half of it was time to start getting restless. Okay, let's go out and inspect other developments in Jiafeng first, while you analyze it here, Vice Mayor Lu said. He Zheng's butt hurt from sitting for a long time. He stood up and stretched his body and walked out. The core technical issues were still being discussed in full swing. After leaving the office door, he found a place and lit a cigarette. Liukin stood beside him, glanced at the watch on his wrist, and said, "By the way, I told Mr. Lu about what he ordered yesterday, and he said that if he comes here today, it's fine that he doesn't appear on camera when reporters take pictures. In any case, he is still in charge of the reception team." Mr. Lu is coming over. Vice Mayor Liu's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. He glanced at He Zheng subconsciously, feeling that this matter was not that simple. He Zheng paid no attention to Li Chang, took a puff of cigarette, and said slowly, "Mr. Lu, do you understand what I told you yesterday? You should write this JIP guidance internally, and then write it down with me. The name is fine, just publicize it more in the local media. As for the planning and guidance of the semiconductor industry, let's do this within the city." He Zheng arranged the work in a few words, but he had no work at all. "Don't worry, this is no problem," Vice Mayor Lu agreed repeatedly. "I think we should discuss this matter after Mr. Lu comes," Liukin said with a look of embarrassment on his face. He Zheng's face changed when he heard this, and he looked quite uncomfortable. He frowned slightly, stared at Liukin and yelled, "What are you waiting for him to do? Whoever comes here has to do this, and all these things can be done." "No. Vice Mayor Lu, is this a problem?" Vice Mayor Lu didn't know how to answer. Just when he was about to open his mouth, Lu Feng came up from the stairs and said, "This is really a humming thing." Before anyone could reach them, the sound had already arrived. He Zheng and the others turned around to look at the sound. Lu Feng strode over quickly, looked at the three of them, and landed directly on Deputy Mayor Lu, asking, "Joe, where's the mayor?" "I'm recuperating today, I'll be in charge," Vice Mayor Lu replied. "Okay, let's get things settled as soon as possible so that we can go back quickly," Lu Feng said. This attitude of asking questions from the very beginning seemed to indicate that Vice Mayor Lu was not taken seriously. Lu Feng seemed to be in charge of everything at the scene, especially his disregard for He Zheng, which made him very annoyed. "Mr. Lu, these leaders are standing here. What are you yelling about all the way? Do you have leaders in your eyes?" He Zheng asked Lu Feng. "Leader? Isn't Mayor Zhou here?" Lu Feng looked at him with half-smiling eyes, as if to say, "Are you worthy of being a leader?" Lu Feng's eyes completely angered He Zheng, and he said in a deep voice, "The chip guidance just now said that this matter must be done, whether it is done or not." "It can't be done." Lu Feng shook his head and stared at him and said, "I'm telling you this, if you give some guidance, we will have a new direction. There are only two possibilities. First, you are a god, and secondly, we transfer assets in the name of research and development. Don't be so fierce. Everything can be discussed." Vice Mayor Lu hurriedly stood up and said, "It can be treated as a coincidence, just like in martial arts movies, where the authorities are obsessed with it, and a child accidentally. One sentence in the book allows a martial arts master to break through, just follow this logic. Semiconductor R/U0026D is a systematic project, which includes dozens of disciplines such as integrated circuit design, semiconductor physics, microelectronics, chemical engineering, optics, materials science, etc. These disciplines require more than just a bachelor's degree to engage in R/U0026D. At the end of the day, they have to be graduate students, and many of the teams are company hires or even at the doctoral supervisor level." Lu Feng stared at Vice Mayor Lu and asked, "Whose children can wake up these people with just one sentence?" Vice Mayor Lu looked up at the sky helplessly. Lu Feng was obviously here to cause trouble. "I'll leave you alone, you're chattering so much, what do you want to say?" He Zheng was completely impatient. He pointed his finger at Lu Feng and said, I'm telling you, don't think that if you do something, your tail will be gone. God, if I say you can do it, you can do it, if I say you can't do it, you are nothing, not to mention you are still a wanted criminal. Wanted criminal? When did I become a wanted criminal? Lu Feng looked at Vice Mayor Lu and asked, what do you mean? If you don't do this, I still have to go in, right? No, 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 if you have something to say, just say it. It's just a small matter, Vice Mayor Lu persuaded. Seeing him persuading Lu Feng so nicely, He Zheng couldn't figure out what to say to him, so he said directly, Deputy Mayor Lu, this is not to coax the child, why are you telling him this? This matter has been decided, and the execution is, there are so many words, he will do it if he can do it, if he can't do it, someone else will do it. Who will do it? Let's see who dares to do it. Lu Feng was completely aroused by him and said in a deep voice, we are a private enterprise, not a state-owned enterprise. There is no need for you to point fingers here and show your prestige. I'm telling you, if you don't do it, you won't do it. You're not going to do it, right? Okay, let me see how strong your bones are, He Zheng said directly to Deputy Mayor Lu, find someone to arrest him. Detain. Come on, you arrest one and I'll take a look. I'm afraid of you. I'm telling you, this matter is not over yet. I will humming report you, Lu Feng shouted. The two stood there arguing, with Deputy Mayor Lu being the older one and the older one. Seeing that the two sides were incompatible, he had no choice but to persuade He Zheng aside first and whispered, don't be as knowledgeable as him. You just say that this matter can be done? A businessman, talking to me like this? Besides, you are the deputy mayor, let him ride on the head. He Zheng's eyes were full of confusion. Vice Mayor Lu was speechless. He was not responsible for the economic development of the region. He thought he would directly arrest anyone who refused to obey the rules. In the process of regional development, facing these enterprises, the municipal government is like a grandson, asking for help. We also have difficulties, please forgive me. Now that you say that, don't blame me for being rude. It was originally a good situation between you and me, but it was unpleasant, so don't blame me for not giving you face. He Zheng calmed down and entered the conference room after speaking. The group that was in the meeting was called out and everyone left. Now that we're gone, what should we do? Liukin asked. What the hell, I really thought that with a little power in my hands, I could make a show here, but I'm far from it. After Lu Feng finished speaking, he looked at Vice Mayor Lu and said, there are some things, it's not that I can't. It depends on who you do it with, otherwise your face will be stained with shit instead of being flattered by then. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1089. Latest website. Vice Mayor Lu looked helpless at Lu Feng in front of him. He was just a bastard, scolding, and could not listen to what he said, so he could only sigh. It's not a big report, it's just a name, why do you need to offend others? Vice Mayor Lu stared at Lu Feng and said unhappily, everything can't revolve around you. You've eaten enough, and others do you have to be hungry? Lu Feng knew very well about some of the connections between them. A few years ago, Lu Feng would have just been a favor, but now it doesn't work. He can't afford the infamy. During this period of time, he didn't even dare to read the newspaper. The sound of crusades seemed to eat him up, and the words of others were frightening. What's more, doing these things would not benefit either himself or Jiafeng. Their method is nothing more than to get the things that originally belonged to Jiafeng safely. Lu Feng is not worried about this at all. Perhaps this is the confidence brought by letting the company have core values. Be hungry when you're hungry. It's not good to snatch food. If you really want to find a reason to arrest me, you can do it at any time. Lu Feng stretched out his hands, as if he was at your disposal. Vice Mayor Lu looked at him with bitterness on his face. Who would dare to arrest him at this time? The whole world is watching this man. If there is any movement, it will be big news. Judging from the reaction above, it is obvious that they want to protect him. Sooner or later I will make you angry and sick. I should not have gone to Suzhou in the first place, let alone brought GFN here. Vice Mayor Lu lit a cigarette and muttered some annoying words. But that's not what he said a few days ago. If it works, just kiss the baby. If there is a disaster, just regret it. No matter what job you do or where you are in this world, you can't escape this law. That's it for today. You go back and report on your work. I'm busy with my own work. After Lu Feng finished speaking, he didn't pay much attention to him and turned towards the office upstairs. In the office, Liukin looked a little tired when he sat down. The reception work in the past few days made him run around. He asked someone to pour 2 glasses of water. Liukin said worriedly, "Mr. Lu, it's too tense with the city. It's not very good, all right. What are you afraid of? You have to confront him when you have to, otherwise he will get slapped in the face. If we are a small business, of course we will be afraid. What are we afraid of now? Do you really think they dare to arrest me? The initiative is no longer in the city. Instead of worrying about this, it's better to worry about the launch of new products," Lu Feng said nonchalantly. The main reason why Lu Feng doesn't give face to the city is that the city can't help him with anything now, whether it's the photolithography machine or the problems overseas, they can't solve them. On the contrary, the city now needs GFeng's brand name. To put it more bluntly, only one's own efforts are left, and there is no beneficial return from the other party. Why do you give so much face, and you can't make a living? How is the DVD development progress? Lu Feng asked Liukin. It has entered the testing stage. It should be fine to go online before the end of the year. There is a prototype here. Liukin stood up and prepared to get it. Don't look at it. You should focus on the chip. There is another matter, Lu Feng muttered. As for you, let the finance department of the R/U0026D company make a budget for next year. Schroeder is not here. The account is 2 billion, but there is still 1.5 billion yet to be paid. You ask the finance department to make a budget for next year and present it at the board of directors meeting at the end of this year. I heard from Mr. Wei that the remaining 1.5 billion has been called several times, but the other party has refused to pay. Liukin sensed that something was wrong. It's their business whether to fight or not. We'll do it step by step. Don't let the people stationed by the Schroeder Group know about this matter. Keep it a secret, Lu Feng ordered. Do they not want to pay any more? Liukin had already thought of the answer. Think about it. I thought you could stand up if you fed 3.5 billion, but now it's 2 billion and it's already on the edge. The most important thing is that we are in such a stalemate with the United States. Europe, regardless of how ferocious each of those gang members are, in the final analysis, they are just barking dogs, and they are very fierce when they show their teeth. If they really want to fight, they will be scared to death. This confrontational game of capital has actually come to an end. They want to spend money to make us fight with the United States. If we really risk our lives, they are afraid of getting into trouble. This is the weakness of capital. It bullies the weak and fears the strong. So the idea on the European side must be to keep their money and throw us out. Lu Feng leaned on his chair and analyzed. If this is really the case, what should we do? Liukin was a little panicked. Whether it was research and development or the industrial chain, it was inseparable from these developed countries. Don't worry, you can come when you want and leave when you want. Who do you think we are? Just as Lu Feng finished speaking, his cell phone rang in his pocket. He picked up the phone and asked, "Who is it?" "Mr. Lu, it's me, Zhu Lidong. I just came back." "Are you at the headquarters?" Zhu Lidong asked. "I'm in the R/U0026D company, "Come here," Lu Feng said towards the phone. Half an hour later, Zhu Lidong rushed over. He hadn't seen him for half a year and looked a little fatter. He looked at Lu Feng and said with a smile, "Mr. Lu is back. I just came back from Shenyang. This year's logistics lines in the northeast are basically all got through." Lu Feng nodded, pointed to the sofa next to him for him to sit on, and said, "I just asked you to come over for one thing. The marketing department is now starting to take on another task, looking for companies around the world that can manufacture micron-level chips." Lithography. Lithography machine. Zhu Lidong looked at Liukin confused and asked, "What does it do?" "It's the machine that makes the chips." Seeing that Zhu Lidong didn't know anything about lithography machines, Lu Feng said again, "You should contact Kevin when the time comes and ask him to help find it. Use the connections in the marketing department to try to buy it back as soon as possible." "Okay," Zhu Lidong nodded, and then asked Liukin about the mass production time of DVDs. Now the market growth is beginning to show signs of decline, and new products are needed to stimulate sales. In the hotel, He Zheng was furious. He felt that he had been insulted. Who was Lu Feng? If you dare to fight against him, you are just looking for death. The more He Zheng thought about it, the angrier he became. He called Mayor Zhou. On the phone, He Zheng said that either the city would deal with Lu Feng, or he would report it to the police. Mayor Zhou felt very uncomfortable being caught in the middle. He kept persuading him to let the adults ignore the faults of the villains and everything was for the sake of industrial development. If he detained Lu Feng now, he would be looking for trouble for himself. Okay, since that's what you mean, I can't say anything more. There are local conditions, and as the saying goes, the county magistrate might as well be in charge now. I don't want to say anything more, so I hang up." He Zheng hung up the phone directly. "Hang up." Mayor Zhou was leaning back on his chair with a headache. How could Lu Feng be a big help to others? Whether it was Huang Youwei or the previous mayor, Lu Feng had made contributions to them in the private economy. How could he be where he was? Has it become such a thing? Little did he know that Lu Feng was quite angry with these two people. He Zheng hung up the phone and called the superior directly. On the phone, he said that today he focused on inspecting GFN R/U0026D company and found many problems at the technical level. Many technologies overlapped with overseas companies to a certain extent, and they were vague. It said that this company has certain problems and is receiving subsidies from the state. The Science and Technology Committee held a small meeting as soon as it learned of these things. According to the news from He Zheng, the situation of GFN Group seemed to be relatively complicated. On the phone, He Zheng mainly talked about Lu Feng's situation. This company did not have big problems, but its founder Lu Feng had many problems. Coupled with the situation overseas, he suggested that he be detained first, not necessarily in detention. So, you can find a hotel to arrange it. In the evening, there were several men in their 50s and 60s sitting in the conference room. One of them reported the situation. Several people at the scene listened to the reported problems without saying a word. This company is still a joint venture. The European Schroeder Group has greater influence on the board of directors. Lu Feng now holds less shares. This will also be a problem in the future. If some countries put pressure on the Schroeder Group, in the future it's got to have an impact. I think, why don't we arrest Lu Feng first? We can explain it to all parties and it won't affect the operation of the company. Everyone, look at me and I look at you. There is too much pressure from overseas. It is not just a private matter. Some countries have begun to accuse us of not protecting patent rights. The leader, a man in his 60s, sat there very calmly, with a firm gaze, and said, "Oh, you can't just listen to one side of this matter. What's the use of arresting Lu Feng? He doesn't have wings, even if he has wings. He doesn't dare to fly out now. As for you, Call other members of the inspection team and ask. Several people at the scene could tell that he didn't really believe in any righteousness. The secretary next to him dialed the number of the hotel where the inspection team was staying on his landline, and then transferred to the deputy team leader's room. "Hello, who are you?" The deputy team leader's voice came from the other end of the phone. "Minister Niu wants to call you to understand the situation." When the other end of the phone heard this, he immediately said, "Hello, leader. Hello, let me ask, how was the inspection today? In terms of technology, is it strong enough to withstand the test of the people across the country?" the voice on the other end asked with a bit of accent. "We are in a hurry today. As far as we know the situation so far, there is no problem." The deputy team leader's words were more tactful. He knew that calling him meant that there was a problem with He Zheng. He wanted to verify it from himself. It was a choice not to offend He Zheng at this time. He also needed to be honest with the leader, and he needed to be careful when speaking. After questioning for more than 10 minutes, no one spoke at the scene. It was obvious that the situation there was different from what was reported. After hanging up the phone, he looked at everyone and said, "There is a saying that goes well, without research, you have no right to speak. This matter is still worth a trip, but in view of the current situation, don't make it public. I will go there myself." Latest website.